Supercross is a form of motocross, not built from natural terrain area like motocross. It's a man-made track inside a stadium or a football ground or such, made of jumps, berms, 4 jumps, double jumps, and it's a more torturous event for the competitor because they have to be physically fit. We've got Australia's best 25 A-grade riders, together with Jimmy Ellis and Marty Moats, 2 US champions that are over here for the season. Stephen Gall, Mr Motocross, current Mr Motocross, and Anthony Gunter. Stephen has won 4 Mr Motocross titles and Anthony has won 3 Mr Motocross titles. And together with all the young lads that are coming up, like Peter Carney and Jeff Leask, Trevor Williams, who is riding very consistent at the moment, they're all a threat to the top riders. For 24 to go to the final out of 100 riders, the eliminations are going to be very closely fought out, and the final over 3 rounds is going to be a magnificent spectacle.
There's a lot of young players in there, but I think we should be able to handle it. There are a lot of good players there too.
What's the enthusiasm like amongst the young fellas?
Oh, it's real good. Everyone's real keen to training, so I think we'll give them a run for their money.
Sure. What was your reaction to Mick Alchin? I know different coaches do sort of catch your mind when you start under them, yeah.
Well, I think Mick he comes into the dressing room and he gains your confidence straight away, so everyone is pretty confident about the way things are going to go and everything like that, so I think the team's going to go very well.
Well, you couldn't really say this is a top afternoon for fishing, but if you really wanted to have a fish, I would suggest try the estuaries. You'll find there's some very, very good bream being caught there, especially Swansea Channel, and some very good ludwig being caught there as well. You'll probably find the occasional black drummer might even slip in with these big seas rolling in the estuaries, and even right in the mouth of the Hunter River, give that a go too. You'll find there should be some good bream. Further up the Stockton area, that's near the Green Water Tank, that's a top spot for good bream, especially with these big sort of seas running and a howling easterly we've got going at the moment. If you're going to fish anywhere close to the sea, be very, very careful. There's some very big swells coming in, as you can probably see, and these are extremely dangerous. Use the buddy system if you're going to fish. In other words, don't fish alone. There's the Newcastle District Rock Championships on today and tomorrow. Gee, I wish you luck, fellas, but I can't see you getting too close to them unless you go very far north. That's around Nelson Bay area, but I'd be extremely careful because the swell is running fairly heavily. Outside's a complete write-off. You can just forget it altogether. The bars are running pretty heavy, and even if you got outside, I'm sure you'd be violently ill because it's a really big sea running. That's really all the bad news. There's not much good news, except if you want to have a fish, try the estuary sections and give it a go. That's about it. Good afternoon.
The picnic day at Windale Kindergarten seemed happy and peaceful enough, but it was underscored by the determination of organisers to see more government money made available for children. The Kindergarten Union, the Independent Teachers Association and the Country Preschools Association have combined in organising several of these functions throughout the state. Their aim is to persuade the state government to increase its funding of preschools from $132 a year for each 4-year-old child. In comparison, they say, Queensland spends $802 per child per year. Organisers say only 10% of children under 5 can be accommodated in existing government-funded preschools. They say also that the income limit for families to receive a subsidy to send their children to preschools is unrealistically low. Both parents may work, but cannot afford to have their children minded at these centres. During the day, visitors were asked to sign petitions, which will be presented to State Parliament next Friday. I talked to Virginia Chadwick about the need for increased funding.
Well, certainly it's an important area in itself for the development of the child, and it's well documented to be of great advantage to a child. And in New South Wales, children and their parents are severely disadvantaged because they simply do not have the same facilities, the same choice that they have in other states. That comes back to lack of policy, lack of commitment, and more important, lack of funds.
The introduction of proportional billing comes in the wake of 70 years of retrospective billing, which culminated last year in the then Minister for Energy, Mr Paul Lander, and the Premier, Mr Neville Wran, outlawing the method, saying it was grossly unfair. A freeze was then put on electricity tariffs until October this year. In April, an amendment was made to the Electricity Development Bill, introducing a proportional billing method to be used when the next tariff variation occurs. But there has been no indication from any government authority of when such a change will happen. Despite the uncertainty of when the new tariff can be implemented, the Shortland County Council has been adjusting its computer billing system so that when tariff variations do occur, customers will benefit from paying part of their account at the old rate and part of the new. Chairman of the Shortland County Council, Alderman Albert Henderson.
That tariff lifting takes place, the back billing won't take effect, as has been done for the last 70 years or so.
Will this mean a loss of revenue for the Shortland County Council?
No, you'll budget accordingly definitely not. No, we'll budget accordingly, and so will other council budget accordingly. They've just got to budget accordingly, that's all there is to it.
To your mind, is proportional billing a fairer way of billing the public?
I think so, yes. As one that has to pay too, I think it's a good form of billing myself.
Where do we go? Probably go
Because we know that, oh, don't you wish that you could join us?
They're running everywhere. They've got it on their heads and all sorts of
They got it perfectly. Like you come out of Ulu in the afternoon, you know, and it's like 100 degrees and you're just sweating and you've walked like the 2Ks back. Where are we?
Mark, as Roy mentioned, some of the situations in Bali are quite primitive in a lot of respects. What's the surfing like?
Well, the surfing's good, you know, the surf there is incredible. I've only been there once and I spent a month there, but I had virtually good surf every day that I was there. But it's a real adventure every time you go surfing. You've either got to paddle a long way out to sea or go out to sea in canoes, which the Balinese take you out in, or the main place that people surf there is Uluwatu. And to get to Ulu, you've got to do a 2K walk through the jungle. And it's not that hard, you know, but it's sort of very hot when you're walking through, and you pay the kids to carry your boards through for you. And sort of when you get down to the main surfing area, there's people waiting there with sandwiches and bottles of Coke and stuff. But the best part is when you're walking out in the afternoon after a day's surfing, you know, you're real hot and sweaty after walking through the bush. And just as you come to sort of the top of the hill where all the cars are parked, you know, the kids are waiting with the bottles of Coke, and I think they're about 50 cents, but at that stage, you know, you'd pay them $10 for a bottle of Coke or a drink.
Mark, so it must be a fabulous atmosphere to surf in, really.
Well, it is, you know, it's absolutely beautiful. There's sort of, all the waves break on reefs there. There aren't any, there's a couple of beach breaks, but most of the best waves are on reefs. The water's like crystal clear, like a beautiful bluey-green colour. And when you're sitting in the water, sort of when you look back at the shoreline, there's sort of mountains and cliffs and caves and palm trees and greenery. You know, it's absolutely beautiful.
Mark, about the foundation and the boards going to Bali, how can you see it helping the juniors in Bali develop their surfing?
Well, I think it'll be really good for them because there's a lot of interest in surfing. Like a few years ago, there was no interest in surfing there, but with the good surf they've got and all the travelling surfers, you know, sort of all the young kids have sort of become very interested in surfing. And the problem they've got there is they don't have any raw materials to make surfboards. So the only way the kids can get boards there is if you know, some of the travelling surfers like leave a board there for some kids, but that's sort of a very rare thing. So with the board drive and the donation of surfboards, it'll give the kids the opportunity to sort of improve their surfing because they'll have surfboards to use, which they haven't had in the past.
Well, Mark, I know from everybody in Australia, thank you very much for your donation, and please pass on to the other top surfers too our thanks in their donation.
Okay, great, thank you.
What do I do? You do your own thing. Just give me the board, mate. Now I've come a long way for this.
Give me the board.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah, right.
Hey, well,
thanks,
I don't know.
I'll give that
there
to
you. Go, right.
A really nice Balinese. I'm really pleased. Thanks very much. Right, is that it?
That's it.
Thanks to satellite imagery, for the first time, flood relief authorities and farmers have a chance to see on a large scale exactly where they were flooded and where their high ground is for stock-saving purposes. The Department of Science and Technology's Australian Landsat station has just produced photographs of the recent flooding in southern Queensland and northwestern New South Wales. To give you an idea of what they show, these photographs are 185 kilometres across. And this area here on the Barwon River is 10 kilometres across. And that's 3 days before the floods. And this is the same area during the flood, showing precisely what's covered by water, which is light blue here, and where the high ground is, and that's light red. The imagery was taken by America's Landsat 4 satellite, 705 kilometres above the Earth. It's on an orbit around the north and south poles and does about 15 revolutions of the Earth a day. 2 of those passovers are across Australia, and the whole of Australia is covered every 16 days. The data is picked up by the antenna at the Alice Springs Landsat station and recorded on tape and then sent to the station in Canberra, where it's translated by a mini computer to discs, and then it's turned into photographs on this machine. Each photograph has 22,500 pixels, or little squares of information. I asked Steve Dovey, Landsat's application specialist, how flood pictures could be useful to farmers and authorities in future floods.
Well, we've got to consider the next flood will be, say, 5 years away, and we can't do much with the imagery on this flood now apart from learn from what's happened. So we could look at the areas of inundation, where the high ground is, for example, how much water went down the river, where the peak occurred, at what time, etc.
Well, in 5 years' time, how do you think this might be useful?
Well, we should then be able to utilise this data to make it more safe, if you like. We're looking now at saving lives, maybe human lives. We're also looking at saving stock, and we also may be looking at saving soil from washing down these rivers.
Well, if farmers or authorities wanted to get hold of some of these maps that you have produced, how would they do it?
Well, it's quite easily. All you have to do is telephone me at the Australian Landsat station, which is in the phone book, and we can certainly help you get hold of some of this imagery.
I think we have a really good chance, Lee. There's probably about 5 or 6 teams, Sutherland, Newcastle, Manly, Eastwood Ryde, Randwick, that have all got very good chances, and I think it does depend a lot on the survival of the fittest, because we have to play 16 40-minute games during 3 days, and that's a lot of games. Newcastle have got the players, 10 good, strong players that I feel that have got the ability to do really well, and we're hoping that we can come home as winners.
Sure. You're obviously rating the teams in the State League more highly than teams from the rest of the state because of the better competition week in, week out.
Yes, 7 of these girls that are in the Newcastle Open team this year play in the State League, and I think that is really good experience for them. They're used to the hard play. They're playing every week at that standard, and they're going to have to play 5, 6, or 16 games really of that same standard over those 3 days, and that's hard.
Our under-21s are going, and the 18s. Do you have an opinion on their chances?
I think the under-21 is a very strong team. Very experienced again. A lot of them were in the under-21 team last year, and I feel that they could go very close to winning it. The under-18 team have quite a few new players. They'll find it very difficult first time up, but last year the under-18s was, I think they did better than any of the other teams.
McEnroe entered the third round matches of the Queen's Club tournament, sponsored by Stella Artois, and after an easy win over Brazilian Casio Mota, proceeded into the final 16. McEnroe, who is seeded to meet Jimmy Connors in the final on Sunday, had a struggle on his hands in the first set. The Brazilian played well and consistently, taking McEnroe to a tiebreaker. This time, Mota hits a glorious backhand for a winner. Then it was McEnroe's turn to show some great form, and he hits this overhead for a tremendous winner. If McEnroe and Connors make it through to the final, it will be a replay of last year's event. Here's set point in the first set. McEnroe winning and going on to win the match 7-6, 6-2. She clipped 0.07 of a second off the time she set in July last year to finish in 10.18 seconds, just in front of compatriot Marita Coe in 10.83. A record number of about 90 boats will enter the race this year, and previous winner of the Ken Waggett Memorial, Graham Hart in Hardacre, will also be competing. Malcolm Everingham in General E will be out to defend his title. This event attracts about 18 boats and has to be split into 2 heats. State and National Unlimited Outboard Mono, Little Angel 2 with David Rose driving, has entered again to defend his Lake Macquarie Championship, which is to be renamed the Kip Pike Memorial. He will need to exceed over 160 kilometres per hour to win this event. Blondie, second in the unlimited outboard class at the Taree Nationals, will be at Toronto, driven by Dave Clark. Local boat Possessed, owned by John Kavanagh of Valentine and driven by Bob Thurger, will provide some of the best action when he blasts around the course at more than 190 kilometres per hour. Unlimited, unrestricted and supercharged, this immaculate inboard will be hotly contesting the Northern Districts Championship, last year won by the Thunderboat Bayswater Bog from Victoria. It certainly promises to be a great weekend of racing at Toronto.